Hello, dear CNN, Fox News. This is tied. I'm not making opinions here. See, everyone's making opinions about important things. This is tied. When you have corruption with avert internation criminal enterprises, criminally legalized criminal enterprise nations all juxtaposed together, sick, blaming the cause of negative value nature progressions and acts on other things like with nuclear weapons. All our energies to such natures of things, not what is needed to be on. Otherwise, it's going to keep causing negative value nature progressions, denatured relationship to nature, to ourselves. Is recorded, confessed, tied to systemic. You see how people call in complaints? If you ask them questions, they're worse than using hearsay with interbranch rackets as victim predators, but per method making them only let realized reactions as that tall areas in states in collusion with other nations, everyone blame others, incapable of justifying morality by the market's positions and morality by space nature system at the same time, not by accident, and not realizing why. That's pseudo sophistication, as the only sophistication. Is a database illusion stacking method. Where and how? See, of course, the nature and the rights of everyone, and victims. Now we have victims. We should be happy about means to stop the rest of the experts say, oh, this is not going to stop. It's not going to stop because they're not taking complaints. They're not taking complaints because before people can make them, they're recorded, invested people through time when they were raised with database illusion stacking. I never had one conversation with Phil Clover the time I was in high school. I never was in his presence. I had nothing to do with him. He's recorded and confessed involved with Heather Hansen, Joe DeMoro, and Mike Kerr, with houses in my area, with crimes, confessed, recorded with wire crimes, database crimes, in middle school, and with a Neville guy with police tied to to golfing spots, interbranch. Their database illusion stacking. There's a Marisol. She was people complaining on me. There's a Marine guy. See, we have service people, Marine, military people. They complain about other people's families they don't even know. They start fights with the degenerate ones, criminally foreign influenced, fake prejudice natures, various things, etc. In other words, also tied to crimes with people and police force interbranch and crime acts in the past, like with the transition from ACA to RICO, our Organized Crime Control Act, to the Racketeering, Influence and Corrupt Organization Act, with and as actors with the former director of the FBI, former standing chairperson on RICO law with Robert Luskin, who was co-defendant with a bunch of federal criminals who had recorded and confessed ties to kids in my school with database placements in a classroom, like an Eric Jensen who was in Newington but went to my school in Wethersfield. Right where George Washington had to leave slavery right before the last battle of the Revolutionary War. Even with meeting with the French general, even with his help. They could only send me a counter without his fact treatment slavery. Everyone entrenched internation here since before his birth, forcing faces like England to take, play a role here and there, otherwise not defend themselves there. There was whole nations are fact treatment nature slaves here. Not one modern nation is not. So there's a Marisol too, because this is related to the principal sex offender just sentenced, because there's worst recorded child predators with the schools and with that school, with their policing of it. And it's tied to crimes with and as retired detectives and standing detectives with crime roles with doctors' families. and with overt drugs and with doctor drugs and stuff like that, and cliques with where they're lying to people with class placements, with zoning, like and tying that to crimes and cases as motivations for it, to recorded, tied, proven, and further recorded sequence shifts, crimes with rules and with evidences in cases. In other words, so with fabrications, and those are needs and natures and members motivated and needed to facilitate it further and further to lie progressions. Need to commit more federal crimes insidiously against strangers like me. Like Marisol knows, too. She has wire crime rules. I don't just know the extent of it. But, because she had called me before, too, this is with the rest of the sex offenders with the school. They wire crime shift to prevent me from demonstrating the forced sustained rape threats on mothers and kids of the school, and methods of getting it off where they can't even explain it, because they have the doctors of one woman who went with kids in the area, who went into another woman's house, reportedly and demonstrably was involved. That was their narrative with their abuses of the women, different families. One tried to say they were going to kill it, but there's a whole bunch of women and stuff, and they have chaos because they have the FBI with standing positions that were exploited, with as the federal criminal co-defendants of former director of the FBI in related cases, and one leading up to it, like in the Trade Center context, with proven Ninth Circuit sequence shift. My father had hand delivered and time stamped his things before we went there, before the attack. Then we came home, I saw what happened. Because we were in there in the morning before a panel of judges, Ninth Circuit. That was later proven that someone time stamped the things to appear late that day, which is also an actor I don't know, tied to one of the witnesses in my father's case, and Steve Manos. She also recorded and confessed involved with intercity police, with on and off campuses cliques with drugs, and with rackets where they're pretending their roles with undercovers, and the family members of that are the reasons they're right to lie, but they're making confessions, demonstrating recorded crime rules with witness fabrications, coercions of women who are sharing the police forms, foreign and domestic, with other people being used for lie progression cover-up tools per breaching method. In other words, we have people calling in fake complaints against people. We have a Marine guy I don't know in Newington tied to him. They have tied to a McNamara, also recorded, confessed involved. Never met him, with Trinity College police, recorded and confessed involved with off-campus police. Positions with a number of people from my school and from my town who were raised interbranch criminally foreign influence with database crime rules, spreading illusion lies with police forms and their family members. Other agencies and their family members recorded degenerates too, not just with crimes with the federal criminals, with the kids in my class. So that they're discrediting people for making complaints because they've been database illusion stacking through time, but they won't put anything in paper because the schools confess to this. It's recorded. But they're also recorded, the police in collusion, interbranch, hiding it too with crime methods, forging names, switching names, preventing voices, directing the news to fake both sides of stories, to make fake correlation nature, to hurt people's voices, and then to direct people to pretend they don't understand people. When there was no conversation, they started a conversation that was fake, so they could, per a crime method that's stealing people's voices, and forcing the predators pretend they're victims because their relationships to police needing to do that. We have interbranch more child predators recorded apart, with the policing further recorded and confessed with the school, with the doctors further recorded and confessed with the school and their family members, with crime methods to the students, even using their own kids. You stop all the problems here. The way is clear. See, we have the mandated law not let followed, and they're pretending that's not true. They're pretending people have mental diagnosis, relationship. They're attaching kids to fake relationships to doctors in relationship to them recorded doing this against each age of fact treatment nature and adults. In other words, in collusion with various natures of court through time already. Recorded conscious that they are lie, progression, cover-up natures and deeds in collusion with other nations, juxtaposed with and as the same crime methods, there and here. Russians against Russians and Americans against Americans, with and as the nature and the value of the trade center agreements. Markets position agreements, fact, treatment, nature, quality. Pretending that it's politics, criminally foreign influence, fact, treatment, nature. Trick, fact, me, treatment, nature. With the hurt of the weapon. It's like a gun, a court. It's like a weapon, a sick one. Especially when against innocents. And to keep this, the reason the things are sustained is because of how this is through criminal justice, private, everything, and then overt sick, juxtaposed. All kinds of doctors who are also investigators recorded with each agency, criminally incompetent, swear or founded, criminally, tactically pseudo-educated. Our founders is about correlation, about how our founders didn't have free speech. It's not about glorifying that. It's not about their sensibilities about what, because they never heard what truth sounds like, so they pretend it hurts. Our story only hurts when you tell lies. How do you think it feels to the young little kids when you pretend it's too bad to tell? Because they're blaming it on us consciously. That's more than implying it, teaching it. That was entrenched here. Our founders were slaves. They didn't want that. And they don't want these database tricks now. We have complaints not made, recorded because of this. See, this is Sandy Hook tied. All kinds of men and women from my town into branch and private tied to them and foreign police and overt criminal enterprises and nations recorded with involvements with the rest of the child predators of various different natures of being child predators. Intercity, tied. A Lethe family is first, with a Lombardo family, and with the guy's name I need tied to the community center, tied to the Domain family. I never had anything to do with, but they're recorded and confessed involved with a Mayano family, and with others recorded and confessed involved with the crimes with WFSB, and with attorneys, private and state, against the Attorney General, against the positions. Keeping against their fact treatment nature. See, they're forcing everyone to entertain and to ignore the offensive, predatory fact treatment nature, cover-up nature needs, crime methods, with evidences, reception bodies, all forms. There's no integrity to reception of evidences in each science. Correlation is the ultimate. The ultimate evidence. And see, they're not taking mandated law. They're not taking complaints. Get the rest of the child predators out. What am I talking about? You don't know because you attach me to fake conversations. That's an offensive crime act against all the kids and parents. That's a lot of damages. See, now they're this is how they adapt. Playing the indifference to who nobody cares. Yeah.